listening to the
Unsolicited genius.
The Genius.
Unsolicited genius.
Craig D. Molat. You are listening to
Unsolicited genius. Unsolicited genius.
The Genius.
Unsolicited genius.
Craig D. Molat.
Unsolicited genius.
You are listening to Unsolicited Genius.
All right. What's up, fellas? How everybody doing today?
What's going on, brother? How's everybody doing, man? Good to see y'all boys.
Bless up. I'm here. I'm health, strength, wins. I'm about it. Check ball.
You say wins. We talking about your basketball team?
Nope.
Okay, my bad. I ain't mean to bring up old stuff.
Hey, it's yesterday. It's okay. Well, I guess it ain't. Oh man, I guess the week's going. It was Sunday, but I can't blame anybody. The ball was in my hand at the last second with the opportunity to put in overtime, and I missed the three. It's a shot I hit all the time. Just had to eat it. It should have never been in that position.
So what you saying? You lost the game?
I'm okay saying that, bro.
I mean, it is what it is. I'd
rather say that than like point a finger.
better than me at the Rock. So I'm just,
It's the first shot I learned how to make. So it's something I usually hit. I'll hit it next time.
That motherfucker Carlton says, so you lost your team the game.
I ain't judging. It happened. I've shot my shot and missed it. But it's the heart of a champion that be about that comeback. Isn't that what Michael Jordan said? He's missed 1,000 times, but made it enough to be the greatest. Something like that. So a lot happening around us. We got our segments, headliner, what in the sports just happened. Are you entertained? But I was thinking, rather than say we got to talk about this thing or the other, I figure it'll be good to just get it off your chest. So for today's show, we're going to cover our segments, but we're just going to let the two of you, the three of us, talk about what's on our hearts, on our minds in terms of what's happening in our country. So opening it up with headliners, this is basically the front page of the newspaper. So we're going to start with Mo. Craig, you had me up late last night with your movie suggestion and In My Feelings. Great movie. We'll come to it later. Mo, headliners, what's on your mind?
First and foremost, rest in peace to Dante Wright, and I hope his family can find some solace through this tough time. Dante Wright, for those of you that don't know, is the 20-year-old African-American gentleman that was killed by a white policewoman in Minnesota, ironically, as the George Floyd trial is going on. And every time they kill a black person, or even if they killed a white person and it was unjust, all of that shit bothers me because they're supposed to be here to protect and serve, but that's the fucking last thing they seem to do. It especially bothers me when it's a kid. I mean, he's 20 fucking years old. He has his whole life in front of him, and they took that from him. They stopped him because he's got those pine tree incense hanging from his car, and there's some petty warrant. Some new information came out today that says there's a second warrant, but regardless of if there was a warrant or not, this kid didn't have to die in this transaction with the police.
But my question, so the pine tree air freshener, they pulled him over because of that?
That's what they're allegedly saying.
Something changed. We can't drive with the pine tree. I'm not a fan of the pine tree, but I thought if that was your jam, it was okay to do.
And, I can't say this is fat, Carlton, but to me, they see a black kid driving in a car with those pine trees. And what assumption do you think they make that he's doing in his car?
Well, and I guess that's my thing, because the pine tree is classic. My dad in 1980 something had the pine tree in his Cadillac. So my question really is, when did that become the reason for being pulled over?
See, Carlton, you and I both know that they just look for any reason to pull you over, is my point. It doesn't matter if he has the pine tree or not. For some reason, they wanted to pull this young man over. And the cop claims that she was going for her taser. I just want to read some facts about a taser and a gun to y'all. A taser weighs 8 ounces. A handgun weighs 2.6 pounds. She doesn't fucking know the difference between 8 ounces and 2.6 pounds. I find that hard to believe. And she's been 19 years on the force. And if she can't tell the difference between a taser and a gun, my question to you, gentlemen, is why the fuck is she a cop? If she tell the difference between something so simple that she's been trained allegedly to use both weapons, and she has no idea what the difference is between the two? That's what we're supposed to believe?
Well, you know what I say again, in no fashion or form am I justifying anything, right? But when you're scared, you won't know, right? When you're frightened, you won't know. But I think that's a point that a lot of people have made about the fear that a lot of police are in once where they're in Black neighborhoods, when they're encountering African American citizens, that there's a heightened level of fear that they're not able to manage and control, and it results in them making horrendous decisions.
What do they want us to do so they're not scared? Change our skin color?
No, it ain't.
This is what happens when people don't get to know people that are different from them, man.
Right.
They live with this fear. They see the media, and what they see on the news is people acting crazy, blah, blah, blah. Just like there's white people that act crazy. But they're only exposed to Black people in a negative light due to the fucking media in this country. So when they run up on Black people, they're scared because Black people have black skin. What the fuck are Black people supposed to do about that? This shit is ridiculous. And then the other thing I want to point out, the Officer Potter. In 2019, she was the police union president, and she was admonished by investigators for allegedly attempting to conceal evidence after a police shooting that left a 21-year-old autistic man dead. Officer Potter, who shot Dante Wright, told Officer Turner and Akers to exit the residence, get into separate squad cars, turn off their body-worn cameras, and not talk to each other. So how the fuck is she still employed? Like, she's a fucking corrupt cop. They knew 2019, and they still got her out there with lethal weapons, and now she's murdered an innocent Black kid. This shit is bullshit.
She resigned. She and the chief resigned today. So what's your thoughts, Craig, on Dante Wright? Any add-ons?
First and foremost, prayers to the family of Dante Wright and what he left behind in terms of a child, to what I understand, all of his loved ones. My biggest issue is how desensitized we're getting on it, or we've gotten to it.
Yeah.
And what I notice is the responses. For instance, I believe the president said something along the lines of, "This is no reason to riot." I noted that mixed in with his response. I thought that was interesting. I also caught wind that former Officer Potter might actually have also been an FTO, which is a field training officer, which means not only, to your point, is she corrupt, but corrupt apples corrupt. You put the rotten apple in the bin with the others, they make the others right.
Training them in the way.
Dante Wright.
And the profile that you read of the other case does have similarities to this one.
How can you keep a police officer employed that's involved in the cover-up of a murder of another man? That shit doesn't even, it just logically doesn't make sense. She tried to cover up a police shooting, and what do, Carlton and Craig? They don't fire her. They put her in charge of training other motherfuckers to learn how to kill people and get away with it and turn off body cameras and do all this bullshit. Do you guys know why he had a warrant for his arrest? The first warrant is for smoking weed. Right. He admitted to doing it. He was fined. He couldn't afford to pay the fine. They put him on a payment plan. The pandemic strikes. He can't finish paying the payment plan. And this is why he has a warrant.
Mm-hmm. And weed is legal where they are, or
it's been decriminalized, but I guess when he was caught at the time, it was not
been, but today it is, right?
That just speaks to the system that we have, where if you're a person with money, man, like, you could kill someone, right? Like Kyle Rittenhouse, that white boy that killed the 2 protesters. They raised money for him. He's been out on the streets just awaiting his court trial. Meanwhile, this kid is struggling to pay the fine for smoking some weed.
Well, you know, the truth of the matter is the justice system is not necessarily won by being the most just. It is the person with the most firepower in terms of lawyers or whatever. We've seen plenty of cases in recent history where they should have been slam dunks. I have video evidence, but the better legal team that knows nuances or whatever pulls it off. It's sad. It's not about justice. It's about who has the money to hire the better lawyer.
I mean, it's also about your skin color, man. Like, you know how many white boys, I would venture to guess, get caught smoking weed by the police? And then these white cops look at these white boys, and you know what they tell them? They say, "Hey, don't do this shit again. I'm not going to ruin your life here. Just go about your business. Just don't do this again." Do they give Black kids that opportunity? Do they give Black kids the opportunity to just skate on by when they pull them over and catch them with weed? No. This system is designed to keep people in prison. It doesn't do anything to help reform them. It doesn't do anything to help them get jobs once they're out of prison. So if they can't get a job after they've been in prison, what do they resort back to, fellas? The crime. Because you got to eat. You got to eat. Our whole system of alleged justice is fucked up, and it needs to be torn down, and we need to start all over from the ground up.
I don't agree with that part.
Tell me how. Prove me wrong. What part of this system do you feel is not corrupt? I'd love to hear it.
I'm not saying that there's no part of the system that's not corrupt. I'm just saying there's the whole tear it all down and start from scratch. I'm not there. I'm not buying that. I'm not with that. I'm not co-signing.
That's what I'm telling you. Show me the part in this system where it starts with the cops picking on people of color, where it goes to the bail system, where poor people can't bail themselves out, where it goes to trials, like you said, and if you can't afford a good enough lawyer, you're fucked. Even when they go to jail, even if you deserve to go to jail for what you did, right? Do they rehabilitate you when you're in jail? Do they provide you with skills so you could get out in society and get a job? No, when you get out, they make it so you can't vote, so you can't do certain things. You've already served your time, and it should be rehabilitation. So you should get a fresh start and try to assimilate back in society. But no one's going to hire you because you have a felony on your record. What do you do then?
Well, I think, is the system flawed? Yes. And as we've talked on our show, as a lot of the conversation all over the globe occurs, the isms, the racism in particular is systemic, right? And that means it's in the system. So the rules, the structure, the regulations are such that they further perpetuate racism. But I think they're also, in this social climate that we're in, have been examples of where the system works, whether it's a city, county, a region, a district, whatever that might be. There's places where it works. So I think whether it's start from scratch or some other mechanism, the one thing to recognize is that the issues are systemic. So it's not fire this person, hire this person. It's the rules, regulations that are also contributing to Black death. But there are places who've done it right. I think, Mo, in the past, you've talked about somewhere in New Jersey. I know Miami Gardens and the police department, as far as community relations, they make efforts to vibe, to be connected, to your point, where there are relationships, there are faces to names. I mean, in my lifetime, I've had several encounters with police, some college stuff we won't talk about, but traffic stops. And at no point in time was I mistreated, and there's several times where I got off without a ticket, in particular with the traffic situation. So we have a problem, but what I would like to see, and the optimist in me, is how can the places that have gotten it right, the places that are successful in how the police relate and engage with their community, it's all one network, right? All the boys in blue, why can't they just get together and get this shit right? That's my question. The answer is because they don't want to. But then that does speak to the systemic issue as I see it.
I mean, what Carlton's talking about is in New Jersey in a certain town, but that's what I'm talking about, Carlton. That's to my point. They basically went to ground zero and rebuilt it back up and established a different culture in their police department that involved the community. So you see the police with the people, they know each other. They hug each other when they see each other. They're neighbors, they're friends. The police throw barbecues and the community comes out to the barbecues. I mean, that is starting over. That is, we're going to change the way we police, the way we do everything. That is policing through the lens of we're going to protect and serve. These are our people in our community. We're going to make sure we protect and serve. That's not happening all over this country. And like you said, Carlton, because people don't give a shit. I'll give you another example, Craig, of something that really irks me, dog. The privatization of jail. How is that feasible? People get to make money off the incarceration of people. Doesn't that give the people in the system an incentive?
Yes, sir.
Because you have to keep those jails full in order to get your payment. That's such bullshit, man. That encourages them to trump up charges. That encourages them to keep them from getting parole. That encourages them to keep people in jail because they get paid off of you being locked in a cell.
All that being said, I agree that the system needs to change. However, each community has different needs. And I'm fortunate I'm in a pretty good community, but in terms of police relationships right now in my life, and I'm happy with that. Not going to complain, right? However, each community has a different relationship. So to do an overhaul sweep of blowing up everything, that's the part I'm not with. I think each community needs to be policed accordingly. And I don't think what's good for one section of the country would necessarily work in the other. Should there be certain things unifying across the board? Yeah. But that's the only part I was disagreeing with you on.
They could start by unifying on don't kill black people. We could start with that step.
You know, if you just made a rule, no matter what happened, don't kill one.
Look, we all know that there are other officers out there, friends of ours, family members, otherwise, that are on the side of righteousness and justice and put their lives on the line and are doing their jobs the best way they can to uphold the law and still be who they are, right?
Appreciate you for it.
Oh, I agree that there are good cops. Absolutely. And they are to be applauded and all of that good stuff. But I'll give you an example, Craig. Did you get a chance to see the video of the black soldier who pulled over into the gas?
Oh,
Man,
Rosario.
that hurt my feelings.
Rosario in uniform.
In uniform.
And you know what's so wild, man, and you'd be surprised how often that happens. Literally, like guys that I know that have served both in military and as police officers, but they might be out of uniform, and you'd be surprised how they get treated.
Dog, he was in full uniform. He could have been waving that flag and singing the Star Spangled Banner.
So that makes it even trippier.
That one looked to me as I watched it, because I don't remember the officer's name. We can look it up, but I know it was Hispanic last name.
It's Rosario. He's black and Hispanic, according to the news report.
I think the police officer had a Hispanic last name as well. So I'm not even saying white versus black or anything of that nature. It's just
Joe Gutierrez, Carlton.
Right. So black and police officer. And it almost seemed to me that he was mocking him, that I don't care that you're in a uniform. All I see is you, black man, who I don't understand, in a vehicle that I've decided to pull over, and you need to do the song and dance as I tell you to do the song and dance. Because even when he pepper sprayed him, it was like, I'm just picking on you. It felt like I was watching fifth graders in the yard picking on each other. It's like, where is the law enforcement? Where is the protect and serve in this dynamic? Especially to a man in uniform, when the whole country came to a halt because of their offense toward men in uniform when Colin Kaepernick opted to take the knee. So it all don't connect for me based on what I hear and what I see, because this black man in his uniform was treated like he was a child.
Where are all the white people, like Carlton said, that took such great offense to Kaepernick taking the knee? Where are they to say, look how they're treating our soldiers now? Where are they to stand up for this gentleman who's an army medic who risks his life for this country so we could afford the liberties that we have here? Where are they now? Fox News doesn't come out and defend him. White people aren't like, oh, this is a disgrace to the military. It was never about the military. This just goes to show you that they're willing to pick on whatever they fucking want to pick on, even if it's not true, because it fits into the narrative that they want to tell you. They don't give a crap about the military. They don't even give a crap about the police. Look at the Capitol riots. Like a petulant child hearing no for the first time, like my son throwing a tantrum, because they're just not used to that, because they think the police are their buddies.
Well, your son is reflective of your parenting style.
More of his uncle.
But we understand your point. We get it.
The other thing is, man, I watched that video over and over, and to see the fear in the soldier's eyes, he thought he was going to die right there.
In 2021, what we are experiencing is, especially black men, but black folks, if you're getting pulled over or having an encounter with the police, you are in fear of your life, period. Whether it's a traffic stop, you had the couple in Mesa, Arizona, gun altercation with the couple. They own a food truck, and one of their business partners or suppliers, somewhere in all of this, they got into a beef. He attempts to pull a gun out on them. They stop him. But while they're restraining him and waiting for the police to arrive, and they showed up 11 minutes later, their fear is not just of the man who they're holding with a gun in his hand. Their fear is that once the police arrive on scene, that they're going to shoot the black man who is basically protecting himself and his wife. So They hesitated to call. When the police arrived, the wife, because she was able to move around because her husband had the other dude restrained, as the police are entering the building, she stops them. So mind you, there's a weapon active. And rather than just let them go in and save the day, she stopped them in the door, which just adds more time to the situation to say, please don't kill my husband. He is the black man in the room. He is not the assailant. He is not armed. He's defending. And when they entered the room, they looked like they were conducting it to the T, to the letter of the training. They ended up tasing the assailant. And that brother, you could see the fear. You talk about fear. He was so scared because at the shock of the other dude getting tased, you don't know if he getting shot. And then once they removed the dude from the situation and he could, and his wife could breathe, and I say wife, maybe girlfriend, but they could take a break and just breathe, you could see the fear that came from his body. He collapsed because not only was he afraid of the business buddy, it's the police. And as they told the story, it sounded like that's who they were more afraid of. So obviously we don't have the definitive answer, but it would be nice if they just said no more killing black people for the rest of the year. If you're a police officer, whatever happened, you cannot kill another black person.
I mean, if he's going to kill you, then you need to act accordingly, but that's not what we're seeing. We're not seeing.
I'm just saying, aim for the leg or figure out which one is your taser. They got tasers we've seen. Well, we didn't see the taser get used. We know the taser was what they thought they were using. But then we've seen the pepper spray put in use, and they got, in Austin, they hit the buddy in the face with the bean bag. So they got options.
Rosario drove to safety and they used it against him.
I mean,
what is happening now is typically and historically, if you're working for the government or government related, especially before technology and cameras seeped in, whatever you wrote was law as the officer. There was no cameras there.
Right.
And a lot of times what the officer wrote would overpower other narratives. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you work for the government. That's what it's going to go by. So you used to be able to get away with doctoring a report a lot more before than you can now, right?
Yep.
So
right.
the brother posted safety is all I was saying.
Yep.
And it was used against him.
Craig is absolutely right. As black people, if you get pulled over by the police, you need to do just like that soldier did. He pulled over into a lit establishment where there were other people. Man, that shit saved his life. If they were alone, I believe they would have killed him. Just one more thing I want to point out about that situation. After the cops pepper spray him and they tell him at the end, we're going to let you go and you don't say anything and we won't tell your superiors and that won't ruin your military career. They basically beat this man's ass. And then at the end, they're like, look at the favor we're doing for you, buddy. You should be thankful for us. We're not going to say anything to your superiors. We did you a favor here. We're going to let you go. What a bunch of bullshit.
If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First and foremost, it's free. Then there are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. That's ANCHOR.FM. Anchor.fm to get started.
All right, so I started with Mo, Craig. So if we transition to what in the sports just happened, what's on your mind? What you feel like getting off your chest?
What caught my attention recently more than the records in the NBA was Kyrie Irving reacting to Dennis Schroeder calling him nigger or nigga, depending on how, if, whatever you want to differentiate. But I thought, and the fact that he took the stance the way he did and drew his line the way he did, I kind of respect it. I understand how he feels, and I'm not mad at him for it. I don't know if I do it the same way, but I'm not mad at him for it.
Right. I think it's complicated, unfortunately, right? There's the word with the ER, and then there's the word in GA. And you go back to the 90s, we have had extensive conversations about the difference and what is and isn't acceptable outside of the black culture. But, to your point, Kyrie's saying, I don't want nothing to do with it. And I think as a parent now and as I've evolved, I respect anybody can say whatever they want. My reaction response is how they direct it to me. And as much as either version of the word GAGER was part of my vocabulary, 1980, 90, early 2000 something, is not where I'm at today. Not so much because I don't think, a rapper can use it and show up in the movie, my homie can use it or not. It's that the appropriation, and it's the way it's so prevalent. You go to a concert of a mixed audience, pick any day on YouTube, you see somebody taking liberties because they can. You said it's in the song, so why can't I just call you NIGGER, right? And so Kyrie saying, I ain't with it, don't bring it this way, I respect it. Because just like we talked about in our previous segment, race is a problem in this country. And that word nigger is truly indicative of the hate that so many still have for Black people. And even though we've used it and reappropriated it and made it something that's a part of our lingo, a term of endearment in so many cases, I can still respect somebody's space that says, I just don't want to have nothing to do with it because it's just attached to too much hate. I thought we would be in a better place, but clearly with Dante Wright and any list, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, however it goes, we clearly aren't. So for me, if it's in the song, I roll with it, but it is not a part of my vocabulary the way it has been in the past, even if amongst family and friends.
Question beyond that for both of you. Outside of songs, how often is it really around you?
Mo?
All the time. I work with a predominantly Black staff, and the word is thrown around all the time. I don't have a problem with Kyrie. I agree with the notion of we could find a better way to express a term of endearment to each other. I guess what I take issue with, man, is Kyrie's reaction to me is a little over the top when he knows this is part of the lingo for some Black man. And that was just another Black man saying that to him. I know some of his teammates say it. Does he have this same venom towards them when he hears them say it? That's my question for Kyrie. Does he have that same vitriol towards anyone that says it? Or was he just in his feelings on that night and happened to be upset and he's looking at Dennis Schroeder like we're about equal size? Would he have ran up on Montrezl Harrell like that?
Do other people in his locker room address him like that, though? Because there's staff members that might use the word or other people around me that might use the word, but they don't speak to me like that.
I would venture to guess that there's someone that is in his locker room that's been Kyrie's my NIGGA. Like, this is a basketball team. Kevin Durant, I've heard it numerous times, and that's like his best friend. I just feel like, is he right that we should find a better way to express ourselves?
I agree.
Is his reaction to me way over the top? Yes, I felt like his reaction was way.
Kyrie was being a little extra. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, man, I just saying if you replace Dennis Schroeder with, I don't know, LeBron James, I don't think he's running up on LeBron like that, having to be, he was being held back like the guy that didn't really want to.
Man, Chris Childs. Chris Childs.
Chris Childs will hit you with that two-piece. He wouldn't ran up on Chris Childs like that. God rest Kobe's soul. But that two-piece from Chris Childs. Chris Childs wasn't playing.
How about pop?
I'm not saying I disagree with Kyrie on we can find a better way to express our terms of endearment, but he could have made that a learning moment for himself and Dennis Schroeder and told Dennis Schroeder, I don't appreciate being called that. It's not something that I like, blah, blah, blah. But
take him to the side conversation.
He's another Black man. You could educate him if you would like on why you don't like the word. But he acted like it was a white player that called him NIGGER or something, when we all know that this is part of Black culture.
Maybe this is him drawing his line, taking a stand. Like, don't come up at me like that anymore. Maybe this is where he's drawing his line.
I guess I'd respect it more if that was like, I don't know, Shaq or something.
Right. All right, what else happened in sports?
Nothing positive for Deshaun Watson.
The headliner was a decision in his favor about the names having to be disclosed. I don't know the law enough to know where that's in his favor, but it ain't looking good for sure.
I mean, that's definitely in his favor, man. His lawyer needs that. How is his lawyer going to investigate these women?
Is that what? Okay, maybe. All right.
You can't defend yourself against someone if you don't know who this person is. So
Well, I just thought it was for the public, but if it was for his attorney too, then yeah, that's fair.
his attorney didn't know the names either, Carlton. That's why I had to go to court and get the names released. And then the attorney says, we will be airing it out in public since they decided to air everything else out in public, which is what an attorney's supposed to do. I mean, I hope Deshaun Watson, who I've actually met in Italy, he was a nice guy when I met him.
Still on our gram. The picture's still on our gram.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't ask me to go to a masseuse parlor with him or anything.
We went right after. Hope you washed your hands.
But I do think it's strange the amount of masseuse parlors that he frequented, man. God, he's got 18 character witnesses that are masseuses, and then there's another 21 complaints against him. That's almost 40 different masseuses for a world-class athlete who's going on Instagram to find them. In Deshaun Watson's best case scenario, fellas, everyone's gonna look at him as some weirdo for the rest of his life, like some kind of pervert that goes into massage parlors, gets his dick hard, and is like, "Hey, you want to give it a kiss?"
Yeah,
Hey, how did you know the script?
I have a friend that's very well versed in these. He's gonna be listening to this episode. He knows who he is. He's put me down on game.
Boom, 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 boom.
I just feel like Craig and Carlton, that he went into it with the intention of a sexual encounter. I don't know if he forced anyone to do anything, but I feel like he definitely went into it with the idea of some kind of sexual encounter. And maybe not every massage person was about that thing just because he's Deshaun Watson.
Right. At the end of any massage experience, we all want to be happy, men and women. Now, does it mean it comes with the defined happy ending, if they give you the menu of choices? So what my guess is, he inquired, and where it was on the menu, he was obliged. Where it wasn't on the menu, they now have created a court case. But they suggest he did other things in it, but it's beyond just a request.
The other strange part, I would say, is if this man assaulted 18 women, and I'll put this to Craig, he's not in jail. Like, he's a serial sexual assaulter. He's just allowed to roam the streets and slide into people's DMs. That's the part that is very strange to me. There's been no arrest. There's been no mention of arrest. There's been nothing on that front.
Well, he's not an assaulter until he's convicted, right? So
I mean, but what I'm saying is, with this amount of women, you would think that there would be some kind of criminal charge at this point, and there's still no criminal charge. It's a very strange case to me.
No, it's very fishy.
Wait.
Go ahead.
Didn't 2 women come forth and file criminal charges?
No, they just came out and spoke publicly about the civil suits, I believe. I don't know if they went to the police with anything. I can't speak on that. I just know the police haven't filed any charges against him. And if you have women that claim this, you should be able to fairly quickly corroborate these stories, because he's going to go to the same game plan. He's going to go to whatever lame-ass game he was using in these massage parlors, and he's just going to keep going to that playbook. There should be some kind of arrest, I would think. Wouldn't you?
Yeah. So a criminal complaint was filed, but he hasn't been criminally charged. So it's a strange situation. Like I said when we talked about it last week, I think the timing in terms of him wanting out of Houston and just knowing how much money is attached to his persona, and then just one after the other claims, none of them legal until recent. We dove into it last week. It's continuing to perpetuate strangeness. So, we'll see how it plays out.
Because at first, man, I was like, this lawyer's just shopping around looking for women, and he's kind of like, I thought, like, feeding them what he wanted to hear.
Right.
But then when he comes out with 18 massage therapists that are character witnesses that say he didn't act inappropriately, it's like, man, how many of these women are you visiting? You're Deshaun Watson, and you're sliding off in people's DMs, coming to their massage parlors. And the part we haven't mentioned yet, he's admitted that he's had sexual encounters with some of the women. He's just saying they're consensual.
Oh, I didn't read that.
Him and the lawyer came out and said that Deshaun has had sexual relations with some of these women, but all of the acts were consensual. And it's
on
like,
in H-Town, they can't take care of their quarterback. There's a lot of people in Houston.
I don't know, man. It's a weird decision. His whole public life, man, he's been such a good guy in the public's eye his whole life.
Even on a bad team, he hasn't as far as I recall, he hasn't had that T.O. Odell Beckham moment where he just, granted he's not a wide receiver, but he seemed to be playing his part despite how bad the team has been performing. So this really caught me off guard. He seemed like a good guy. And he may still be a good guy. We don't know nothing about nothing, right?
Nope.
And you could hire a team, 7, one for each day of the week, bro, for less than all of this.
See,
You're tripping. You don't even have to do all that. What's up?
I believe he just didn't want to pay for the pussy. He should have just came out, made it a transaction. I'm going to give you X amount of dollars. We're going to have intercourse. And after that, that'll be the end of our relationship unless I want to provide you with more money for your services. I think he was looking for the cheap route by going to these massage therapists. And he's like, look, I have a hard on. You want to help me with that? Like, that's how I feel this went down in the parlors.
Everybody got their own set of ills, chills, and thrills that they go for. And there are a lot simpler routes, but rocks in your socks, you got to get them off. So let's see what happens.
That's so old manish.
So are you entertained? Switching into our entertainment portion of the show. All things considered, I thought we could spend some time with our boy DMX. The dog is gone. The bark will live forever, but the dog is gone.
Dog for life.
How are you all feeling?
As always, man, first and foremost, rest in peace to DMX, Earl Simmons. Once again, prayers out to his family. Man, DMX is someone like we grew up with. That's like our time in rap. We grew up with DMX. Makes you feel old, man, to see the people that you used to like listen to and you see them fall off, pass away. Makes you think about your mortality in a lot of ways. It's just sad. He had demons and he just couldn't conquer those demons. And it's another lesson of the importance of talking when you have issues. The more you let shit fester and you turn to things that are unhealthy, such as drugs, that just never has a positive outcome. But in terms of the music, this man had 2 #1 albums in the same year. Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood, and It's Dark and Hell is Hot. It's Dark and Hell is Hot is my favorite DMX album. He was grimy, man. He gave us something much different than we'd seen before in the rap game, especially with the bark. When was the first time y'all heard DMX, man? The first time I ever heard him was Money, Power, and Respect. Y'all remember that song by the Locks?
Yeah, I heard him on that song. I think it was LL Cool J song. Or I know LL was on it, and DMX just came in like toward the end with his verse. Who is this dude just spitting? And because he didn't bark. I don't think I heard the bark until the album, or maybe a single or two. If I can find that song, he didn't bark on that song. So it's probably not until I got the album that I heard it. But when I did, it don't ever go away.
Now, the first time I heard him, he barked because that's the song I heard. And when his verse comes on, he has the last verse in the song, and it starts off like, arf, arf. And I was like, who's this barking on the track? Like, I had to bring it back. I thought it was a mistake. Shit, he meant to do that shit. And the bark on the songs just became live. If you have mental health issues, no matter how big or how small, like, seek help, my people. Find you a life coach. I could make a great recommendation for one. Find you a therapist. Call Carlton. Carlton will help you greatly.
Yeah, he'll let me on the gram. If I can't help you, I know somebody that can.
Or just find a friend. Find a friend. Like, you should never feel alone.
Yeah, that song was 4321. It was LL's. I forgot your boy Can I Bus was on there too, Craig.
I was just about to say the name of that song because I definitely remember it. That was in rotation for me for a long time. The DMX thing, man, DMX music represents so many different moments, from shows that I've been a part of, like step shows, to events that I've been to the soundtrack for road trips, to the soundtrack for ... I was still wearing baggy jeans and Timbs up until a year and a half ago. Like, I just started kind of adjusting to the quote unquote new way, right? I no longer necessarily buy a size 38.
That's what 40 do to you, man.
I'm not also wearing like basketball shorts under my clothes all the time anymore either.
This man said I'm still wearing baggy jeans and Timbs.
Up until 2 years ago, dog. Like, I was still stuck in the 90s. Actually, I got rid of the baggy jeans, but I still got the Timbs.
DMX's Timberland collection was unparalleled to no one, man. Like, he had every Timberland boot during that time. And, I was into the Timbs heavy during that period. But I don't know, man. It's sad to see the people that you grew up with that entertained you and to see them just leave us. It's just sad. Favorite DMX song, fellas? I'll give you mine's off rip. My favorite DMX song is Slippin'. It's a very relatable song. I feel like anybody could relate to it when they're going through a tough time in their life. That is my absolute favorite DMX song. Carlton?
Starting backwards, right? My favorite song, it's hard to pick one song because a lot of them he got verses. That one he got with Mace, a couple where he just killed it. The song he got, I think Jay-Z album. But my favorite album is Dark as Hell is Hot and Flesh of My Blood, is 1A and 1B, right? But I think not as much for the lyrics, but just for the fire in the song, Get At Me Dog, like that for me captured who DMX was, especially at the end of it. But for me, what I thought about as I went through his catalog is it's not as much the individual songs, because, pick a mood. There's a mood for it. He got the storytelling. He got the fire hot songs. He got the romance song. But it was what he meant. And so if you think about when he came out, it was a year, not even 2 years after Pac had died, Pac and Biggie. And for me, he filled a void. So first, to hear his talent and lyrical athleticism, that was already like, okay, who is this dude? But when I hear that bark and he comes out with that fire and he has the prayer song and he got Damien and he got the little romantic song, what type of games are being played? How's it going down? When he just gives you all of that he gives you, and especially in the first two albums, he captured a whole culture. East Coast, West Coast, the dirty South, Miami. Nobody could deny the power that DMX had. And I remember seeing him in the Hard Knocks Life tour. It was Jay-Z was the headliner, but I was there for the X. And when he performed, he gave the crowd everything they expected to get out of him. And so I remember at one point feeling like, man, this dude gonna be, as he was doing movies, I just felt like we would be able to get the best of X for a long, 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 long time. And once I became aware, the reality shows that he was on, clearly there's a drug problem. Talked a lot about his relationship with his mom, even the fact that he didn't choose drug addiction. It kind of was forced upon him. And once he realized what's going on, he's addicted. It happened to him as a kid. So his story is just real sad, man. And as I thought about it, it reminds me a lot, for me, a lot of when Whitney Houston died, world renowned. His career, her career aren't the same, but the importance to me individually, the role for me individually, and then to know how much sadness was in his experience while he was still being a dog. I mean, when he did the verses a few months back, just seeing him out there, yeah, his belly was a little big, but he seemed like, okay, he recovered, he's bounced back, now he's gone. So, for sure, rest in peace, X, and the bark will last forever.
Definitely RIP. Ready to meet him. I got to throw it out there as a banger that I love. I got to co-sign on Slippin', but I think that's a favorite for a lot of folks. Slippin', I couldn't tell you the way I abused the repeat function on the device I was using at the time to listen
with your
to
CD player.
I'm not testifying to that.
Or was it
Definitely wasn't. But It's Dark and Hell is Hot is definitely the album.
Okay.
But that intro on Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood, that my niggas, that junk is great.
Yeah. My favorite intro will always be Tupac, Straight Rider. I won't deny it. I'm a straight rider. That DMX.
He got some crucial guest verses. 24 Hours to Live. Oh, his verse is so hard. Man. 24 left until my death. But I'm going to cherish every breath. Dog, when he says, I know exactly where I'm going, but I'm going to send you there first. And with the shit that I be doing, I'm going to send you there worst. I was like, DMX and my dog's bite. Jigga, my nigg, rhyme.
Oh, life. Yeah.
That he just bought to the track. It's like, it was just infectious.
That's it. It was an infectious energy. That is
DMX got down on that Rough Riders anthem with the homies in the club. Like that shit was just crunk when that shit came on.
Stop, drop, shut them down, open up shop. Man, they ran the streets for a while, man. DMX was the man in the streets, man, everywhere. And that was the thing, because we had East Coast, West Coast. It got quiet a little after both Pac and Biggie died. but it was still there in 97, 98. It wasn't all dissipated. But everybody, if you loved rap, male, female, you loved you some DMX for sure.
And you got rough stuff with hooks. Because it was a lot of times your guys that was giving you the rough stuff in the bars, the hooks were trash a lot of times. So he was giving you some rough stuff. And even that last one, remember, they flipped that whole remix. My dogs don't.
I
My
love
dogs
it.
go,
Yeah, yeah,
shut
yeah.
them down, open up shop. First, we had them like, now
Mhm.
like,
We're all in the same fraternity.
Blue Five for life.
Yeah, I pledged much later than these old ass motherfuckers that are on this show with me. But when I pledged, that was the song I came out to. That was the song. My guy that was on our line played the trumpet and he played the beat to that. It was so live. It was so live. Oh, Doc, I was talking to Kamari about DMX passing because my wife's name is Kamari, and we we're talking about DMX passing. And she's a Peloton rider, man. And her Peloton group was talking about we need to have a DMX class in tribute, right? And some of the white people in the Peloton community replied with, we shouldn't celebrate an addict. I take great issue with them in that, especially since Peloton has an Elvis Presley class. And Elvis Presley was a drug addict. He was also a pedophile. It's unbelievable how when it comes to someone black, they always go to the worst part of the person, to the demons, to the warrant, to the crime, to every negative thing they've ever done in their life. When it's somebody white, they conveniently ignore it. And they even glorify them.
Well, DMX got plenty of songs in response to that person. You know, it's funny, talk about soundtracks and things like that. I remember, you know, I'm self-employed now, but previous chapter of professional life, I was listening to DMX on the way to work. Man, don't do it. Don't do it. You know, maybe after work, but you don't want to be fired up like that before you go to the meeting because you're not going to act right. I was barking in the songs. I was seeing people's faces. I was getting at them, dog. And I was like, that ain't the energy you're supposed to bring to work.
And Carlton was going
to point forward. DMX was off the on the way to work playlist. What'd you say, Mo?
They were like, Carlton, how you doing? And he was like,
You know what I really like though? When he got into conversations with his demons or had his demons get into conversations with each other in his songs. That is a skill that is often not shown in hip hop.
He was a great, great storyteller. Like, I don't know if we in hip hop value the art of rap storytelling as much collective, but those that are gifted at it, Biggie being one, DMX is one. I think about Black Thought is one.
If you don't mention Nas, some of the people.
No, I'm sorry, man. Look, it wasn't all inclusive. I was just off the top of my dome. But yes, because Nas told a story back. Well, Slick Rick is credited as being an originator. Nas told a damn story backwards. Come on, man. They don't just make that up. But DMX told beautiful stories. Beautiful. I mean, it was one of them. Which was the one that sounded like he was in a movie? Which one?
Crime Story.
Yes. Oh, come on, man. Like you can't see the whole film, the whole 2-hour film with your popcorn from start to finish the way he's spitting it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I agree with people you named as being great story. I mean, the greatest story ever told in rap to me on a song, though, just my opinion. Telling the story backwards, I enjoy that. But the greatest story ever told to me was I Got a Story to Tell by Biggie. Because
it was just short. That's my only thing. Because he told better stories on that album. In my opinion,
he paints just such a vivid picture.
Oh, it is. It's comical too. It's a good story
when he spits that track. I just see it.
But what you see going on there with him is what makes that track so crucial is look how it's proven itself to be true after he's gone. Year after year, you hear different players or people associated with the story start to give pieces of it, like say, yeah, it was more than just some story.
Found who the player was?
Or John Starks.
I thought John Starks denied it. I thought he denied it was him, but said he knew who it was.
Well, I'd fucking deny it was me too if that happened to me. This is fucking embarrassing. Now, can you imagine if you're the Knicks player and you didn't know that you were robbed by Biggie and then you hear that song?
Probably was spit. He probably didn't even know when he heard the song. Probably was saying every word. Boom, boom, boom. Bobbing, boom, 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 boom. And then somebody was like, yo, he talking about you, dog.
You're right, though.
Thought it was Charles Smith, but I don't know.
Biggie's an amazing storyteller too, because I think about kicking the door, the story Biggie tells where they're double parked by the hydrant. Love it.
That's what I'm talking about. That
shit.
the way he ended that, the whole they on this whole little mission and it's ruined because he double parked by a hydrant. Stupid motherfucker. Right. All right. We coming to the end of our time together. What accolades do we have today?
I just want to shout out like the activists, man. They get a lot of shit. A lot of people question their motives. People like Sean King, Tamika Mallory. Listen, we can't bash people that are trying to do right. You know, even if we disagree with their means or how they go about it, their heart is in the right place and they're trying to get good work done. And we need to be encouraging and supportive and stop trying to tear each other down. It feels like Black people are the enemy of the state. Obviously, with the problems we're having with the police, we need to be unified in the things that we are doing and uplift each other. So I just want to shout out all the activists that are in the streets that are doing good work. I see you and I greatly appreciate the efforts that you put in with your free time. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Here, here. Any for you, Craig?
People of color that serve as law enforcement officers, man. I imagine for many of you, you are in a rough spot. I just think that there's a line being forced there, and I hope it doesn't get created there, get any wider or manifest more. But I know they're torn. So that's all.
So I don't have master per se this week, but I have a movie that I watched, as I stated earlier, recommended by the homie Craig, The Immortal Warrior. It's an animated movie, but it is packed with a lot of reality that we're still dealing with today. It's based in Brazil. Short explanation, it's an immortal warrior who's been in love with the same woman for 600 years. But in the course of their love story over time, we see Brazil's backstory. So we talk about the social climate in the United States today is all attached to what we've been dealing with for 400, going on 500 years now in the form of slavery and Jim Crow and all those other things. And so Brazil, South America, we know every piece of land on this earth has a story that predates our experiences. And so this movie, while showing a beautiful love story, also highlighted the crimes that Brazil has committed against its people. Great movie. It's not that long. It's animated, but it go deep. It go hard. And for those who do manage to watch it, if you're out there dating, this is the type of love that you do it for. So peep that. And thank you, Brother Craig, for the recommendation. All right. So any quick reactions before we shut it down? Anything we didn't cover? Anything you want to come back to before we call it a session?
Be aware, my good people. And like I was saying earlier, man, if you are Black and you get pulled over by the police, you find a public place to pull into. That shit literally could save your fucking life. Don't mess around. I call someone too. I don't know about you fellas. I call someone, I tell them to be quiet, and they're just listening to the whole interaction on the Bluetooth. Do whatever you need to do to come out of that interaction alive. It's not worth it to talk back. It's not worth it to pop off. Yes, sir, no, sir. Just go home and then deal with whatever the issue is later on. Just live, my people. I'm tired of seeing them killing us in these streets. Love y'all. Y'all be safe.
See, Lindo, anything for our listeners, fans, before we sign off?
We appreciate the listenership and the feedback and the love. Thank you.
All right. And I just say, man, look, you got two choices. You got love, you got fear. And the hour that you shared with us, we talk a lot about our reactions to other people's fear. You look at the news, you look at the media, you see why are police killing Black men? It's fear. And so the counter to fear, the solution to fear, the elixir, the remedy is love. And what that looks like for each of us is different. What that looks like for Dante Wright's killer is different. George Floyd's killer is on trial. What else is going on? I mean, all the stuff, right? Whatever it is, the Royals, Kyrie, whatever you see on TV, on our media, on CNN, on Fox, on CBS Sunday mornings, it's a whole lot of fear. And the counter to fear is love. Hit us up if you want to talk in detail about how you do that. For those that read the good book, you got that. You got the Quran. You got a lot of things that talk about what love is. Just realize that what you're dealing with is fear, and the resolution and solution is love. And on that note, we thank y'all for rolling with us.
One more thing, real quick, Carlton. Shout out to all the Muslims around the world for Ramadan. Have a good, peaceful month of Ramadan.
Do I say happy Ramadan or do I say have a peaceful Ramadan? How do I do it?
It's like happy Ramadan or a peaceful Ramadan, whatever you wish, brother. But it's just peaceful
and peaceful Ramadan to all Muslims. Take care of yourself too. Be nutrition right, because I know it's tough on you. It's a long haul. So all that said, here at the Unsolicited Genius, we thank y'all for rolling with us. Good night, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. We'll get at you next time. Peace.
Unsolicited genius.
You are listening to Unsolicited Genius.